What's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. Today is a very exciting day for me because finally we get to do some drifting. Back in the day I used to drift cars. So did Andrew. We both have the old man drift crew thing going. Now, this isn't really old classic patina like we normally do, but this is actually Andrew's personal drift car.
I bought this with plans to always drift it. I did that for a long time with the basic V6. I wanted to start being competitive with the car, and it kind of snowballed into where it's at right now.
As you can see, this does not have a V6 anymore in it. It's got a lot of goodies under the hood. How the heck did you get a V8 in there?
Luckily, there are companies out there like Siki who make awesome swap parts for these cars. If you're looking to get an LS into just about any vehicle, they make really cool swap mounts, custom oil pans, headers, and transmission mounts. And this engine is a 6.2 liter LS3 out of a 2012 Camaro SS. For accessory drives, I'm only running an alternator and an upgraded power steering pump from turn 1 with a big 4.5-inch pulley to slow it down.
So let's go to the interior real quick. You got a full cage in there, so you can do some tandem drifting.
This cage would be conformed with Formula D spec class rules. Really nice, high, tight cage. Cleaned out the whole interior of the car, cut out all the bracketry and unneeded metal. So it's really all business inside. Hopefully we're gonna get this thing ready to go to LS Fest East, but in the next 3.5 weeks, we actually have a local event here in South Florida that I'm gonna try to get this thing ready and shake it down before I drag it all the way up to Bowling Green and compete with it.
Let's get this thing up in the air. We're gonna be showing you guys exactly how you do an exhaust system. Vibrant hooked us up with 4-inch and some 3-inch material, and we also have a muffler. That way Andrew doesn't lose his hearing when he's driving the car. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna bolt up our 4-inch V-band. So these V-bands have a little bit of a recess in them. So we're gonna bolt those in place, and then we're gonna probably start with a 45. And I usually use the frame rails as a reference. We have a pocket inside of here that we wanna stick to. And then back here, right where that cross member is where we're gonna do our Y. So for right now, we're just gonna focus on trying to get 2 straight runs to the middle of the car. So we're gonna get our V-bands in first. All right, so we got one side started. As you can see, I had to put a 2-inch extension on my 15 so that it basically drops it down a little bit further. And it's nice and level with the frame rail right now. So now we're gonna repeat the process over here. What we're gonna do is we're going to come on the back side of this pipe, level it off, and mark our cut so that they're both merging into the collector at the exact same time. That's gonna get the best sound out of the exhaust, and it's also gonna get the best performance. So you're not gonna have any turbulence because one side is fighting the other. We're gonna measure from the seam back here up to this point, and then we're going to match it on this side with our straight edge. We're gonna take these two 90s that we cut out of a U-bend, merge them together so that it's got a long section to be able to transition into the 4-inch. Now what I wanna do is I want to merge them together first, and then I'm gonna stick them up in there like that. And then we're going to basically just transfer over where this bend meets the straight. So we're gonna go ahead and mark these up on the bench. I'm not going down directly in the half. I'm going a little bit over, so I get that 4-inch width that I'm looking for in order to be able to match this up to the 4-inch single to make it out the back side of the car. All right. Before that guy. I have 1 inch on either side I have to come in. All right, so we have our merge tacked in place. So now we got the 4-inch width. So what we're gonna do now is go ahead and throw this up to where our 2 pipes merge together. Just gonna sit it right over like that. And you'll be able to see where the pipe kind of intersects with the bend. So we know we have too much bend right now. You're gonna wanna mark on this guy first, get the miter square where this actually joins into it, which is gonna be about halfway. Once we have that, then we'll transfer our marks over to here, make that cut, and then we throw this in and finally weld it. All right, so we have our merge in and we have it tacked in place. Have it pitched up on like a 15-degree angle, so it's gonna go over this little cross member piece. We went ahead and we smashed this 4-inch, so now it's kind of like a slip fit. For right now, I'm just gonna leave it loose so we can slide over the merge and be able to give us some adjustability. All right, so the front half of the exhaust is stitch welded. I like to stitch weld as much as I can in the car because you can use the car as a fixture. But right now, I got all this pretty much where I want it. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna run back here and we're going to start making that jog over to the V-band. One trick I like to do is I'll cut a bend right on the center of the actual mandrel, and then you're able to just spin in on that access point to be able to snake it around different areas of the car. Some people might just cut up a bunch of bends and try to make everything fit. If you use the center of the bends, divide them in two each time, then it's always easier to be able to keep your miters the same. Instead of taking a straight 45 and trying to come here, it's now running into the diff. I can now rotate on the center of the bend and kind of put it wherever I want. So what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna get to the diff point and then we're gonna see what we're gonna have to do out the back of the car. So we got it right to the rear diff from the factory. You got a little point right here where the hanger goes off of. So we're gonna use this little off-the-shelf doodad, bolt it right in there, and then we're gonna take this hanger rod, weld it right against the side of the pipe. And then we're gonna do a second one, probably back here somewhere, to actually hold the tip so that it doesn't sit there and flop around. We're gonna lower it down on the ground just so we get a better look as to what the tip's gonna look like. So we're gonna use one more 4-inch V-band, put one at the tip so that we can swap it out for a muffler later on if it's too loud for old Andrew boy. You know, he's getting older, so his ears are a little more sensitive now. I'll probably cut it like back here and do a little turn down doohickey.
Yeah, whatever you do, just don't put it up behind the bumper because I'd rather not melt the rest of what's there.
All right, the exhaust system is pretty much done. We have our 4-inch back section all set, and we have our 3-inch Y section done. So now what we're gonna do is start the welding process. I like to weld as much as I can in the car first. Use the car as a fixture because everything's gonna move. So we're gonna go ahead and weld as much as we can, let it cool in the car. We'll pull it out, weld the top section out of the car, and then we're gonna weld the entire 4-inch section out of the car. What do you think, Andrew?
I think it looks great, man. You did an awesome job.
Ow. Not purge welding this time around. It does make the inside a little bit smoother, but is it gonna make or break the exhaust? No. As far as the torch goes, I'm using a water-cooled Miller torch with a number 12 FUPA. This is an amperic cup. It's pretty good gas coverage. You get really nice gold welds with it. We're gonna go ahead and tack everything up as much as we can. And then once we have that done, then we'll start welding probably 2 or 3 inches at a time, flip it over, do a 2 or 3 inch pass, and so on and so forth until the whole thing's welded up. With stainless steel, you want to use filler wire that is a grade higher than your base metal. So if your stainless is 308, use 316 filler wire. The reason for that is because the nickel and the chromium in the stainless will actually burn out of the stainless while you're welding it. That's why you get black welds if you use too much heat in the torch. And also if you use inferior filler wire, you'll get black welds. It won't be nice and shiny. All right, rear section is all done, welded up. We're gonna go ahead and pull out the middle section now, finish welding up the top half, and then we have to finish welding up our merge, and this bad boy is done. All right, so the exhaust is done. We got the Y pipe all welded up. As you can see from the time lapse, we just had to do a little smasher doodle do on this joint right here. That pushed it down inside of that throat, got that all final welded. Finished up everything on the top side. All our V-bands all welded up. So this is pretty much all good to go, guys. Now we're gonna hand it off to Andrew. He's got a couple of things he's gotta do with the motor to get it to start. We have some O2 sensors we have to put in too. And then we can fire this thing up and see what it sounds like.
I just finished installing our new balancer in the front here. This is a Corvette spacing balancer versus the Camaro one that was originally on it. Corvette spacing balancer and pulley setup is usually the best choice when swapping a V8 into your car. It gives it the lowest profile, giving room for bigger radiators, piping for turbochargers, hoses, and all that kind of stuff. Still waiting on a tensioner and a belt to wrap up the accessory system. Also on the interior of the car, there's still a handful of stuff to wrap up. We got to install the battery and a mount for it. Then we should hopefully be able to fire this thing up. Bulkhead's tightened from the backside, and I can go ahead and put this guy in. Try it again. Hey, 40 PSI. We'll dial that in once the car is idling and running. All right, so I've got my location mapped out where I want to have the bungs welded in. Just past the collector, probably about 5.5 inches. And then the other one just a little bit further back. Same over here, just past the collector, about 5 inches or so. Should be able to give us a great reading without too much turbulence, and it'll be very accurate. So I'm gonna pull this back down, prep the holes, and get it ready for welding. Intake pipe is on, coupler, filter, MAF sensor bung, that's ready to go. Inside here, I've got the ECU mounted under the dash as well as the PDM. Switch panels here ready to go to start turning on everything. Batteries hooked up, fuel pumps are ready to go. All this stuff is necessary to get this first fire up. While I was working on everything on the inside and in the engine bay, Tim and Liam were fabbing up the exhaust, getting the O2 bungs finalized on it. And you can see I've got my O2 sensors already put in here and the plugs. We're gonna be using these at a later date for a wideband O2 sensors. So last thing to do is get this thing bolted up. And once that happens, we can hear this first fire. All right, so we've got this thing filled up with oil. Now I wanna go ahead and prime everything with the starter and get the pump cranking. So let's see what she builds some pressure here. All right, so I finished priming up the engine. I saw plenty of oil pressure cranking with the starter with the fuel system off. I went ahead and reset the fuel system so the pumps will come on. I think we're ready to fire it up for the first time. Pump on, ignition on, starter. Still a handful of things to do, but yeah, that's a great first startup. The exhaust sounds so amazing and aggressive. Tim and Liam did a great job fabbing this thing up. Only a couple more things that we have to do in the cooling system department, as well as the power steering, but our parts are in the mail. As soon as they come in, I'm gonna get those things on here. Then we're gonna take this out, shake it down on the street just to make sure everything's functioning properly. And then we're gonna be taking it out next month to LS Fest East to really see what it can do. We still have some content coming out on the LS Swapped Travelall, as well as the twin turbo Chevelle. So don't forget to hit the notification bell so you can stay up to speed on those two projects. And once again, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. What time is it? Hammer time. No. I didn't wear my watch today.